Welcome to my dream, Debating with God. I am Dr. Reynold Russen. Join me as I take you through my journey in a discussion with God. In this discussion, I ask some very difficult questions, questions that have confounded mankind for thousands of years. Listen carefully to the answers that God gives to some of these very difficult questions. Debating with God. I was standing in the middle of nowhere. It looked like a desert. It was dark. There was nothing in front of me. No trees, no people, no buildings. And all of a sudden, there was a crack of thunder. In that moment, a voice came out and shouted my name. Reynold, Reynold, is that you? I responded, yes, yes, it is me. Who are you? Where are you? What are you? The voice came back. I am their creator. I am their creator. Finally, we meet. I was terrified. I was afraid. I was trembling. This encounter with God in my dream was extraordinary. I had never imagined it, and I did not know how to respond. I look back at my life with great concern because I have been a non-believer for many years. And tonight I have this revelation in my dream. How is God going to consider me because I have been a non-believer and all the things I have said about the existence of God were negative? I was terrified. I looked back at my life with great concern. For over 40 years, I have been praying to the Lord, asking for redemption, asking for prosperity, asking for good health, but I never saw the results. I started doubting and questioning whether God does really exist. In many debates with my friends, I would be very vocal and argue that there is no God. God does not exist. But this encounter had a serious impact on the way that I view God, on the way that I view existence, and my whole life. I then said to God, I am afraid. I am afraid to ask you all the questions in my mind because some of these questions are very difficult and they may put me in a bad context with you, and I do not want to burn in hell. Do not be afraid. Ask any question. I am the Creator. Thank you, God, for the wonderful creation. You created the heavens, the earth, the sun, the moon, the stars, the entire cosmos. But then you also created hell. This is what intimidates me in my discussions with you. Hell was created to punish people like me who question your existence, who do not live according to your principles. How do you expect me to proceed and have a discussion with you when there is hell hanging over my neck? The subject of creation is beyond mankind. Heaven, hell are subjects that concern me a great deal. All I can say to you now is the kingdom of heaven is within you. Look inside of yourself. You will find it. So is hell. I wouldn't burn my own creation. I love mankind. So be free. Ask all the questions. I am their creator. God, I am still shaking with fear, but with your permission, I will proceed and ask some difficult questions. You created existence. You created everything. You created life. And you created mankind or humanity. But the first people that you created were of a certain race and character. You created a male first and called him Adam. And out of his ribs you then created a woman called Eve. Does this signify anything about the relations between men and women? Would it be fair for me to think that God maybe is a sexist? God does not believe in gender equality. Would it also be fair for me to ask the question that God created people of a certain color and complexion as the first humans? Does that signify that God could be a racist and prefers one race to another? You placed this couple in the Garden of Eden, and you warned them not to eat the forbidden fruit. But then the serpent arrived and persuaded Eve to taste the forbidden fruit. Couldn't God have stopped this? Or was it a trap so that God could then unleash his anger upon humanity? You then gave them two sons, Cain and Abel. These two sons were obviously boys, and I have often wondered how they reproduced themselves to create other nations. Were there other nations around the Garden of Eden? Or were these other nations not the chosen nation and not the creation of the Almighty? Cain killed his brother Abel because he offered God a fat lamb, and God looked pleased at the offering, whilst Cain brought some wheat and vegetables, and God did not look very pleased at this offering, and this angered Cain, who then turned on his brother and assassinated him. In response, God is said to have cursed Cain and his descendants, the Canaanites, to become slaves of the earth. I wonder how God could have come to that decision. The subject of creation is beyond you. It is beyond everybody, because when I created existence, when I created life, there was nobody. But nonetheless, let me answer your question. When I created existence, I made sure that there is continuity. When I created life, I made sure that there is continuity. I created male and female for there to be procreation, for the species to continue to exist. Should I have created female first, you would be asking the same question. Am I a racist? Am I a sexist? The Creator can be none of the above. I am the Creator, and every creation that I made is equal before me. I will address these questions when I reveal myself at the end of our discussion. But remember that the stories that you are telling me are stories that have been created by males, and males have tended to put themselves first to dominate. Even the question of nations, it is important to understand which nation wrote that story and whether that nation was writing that story to try and dominate other nations or to repeat their own experiences. I am the Creator. I am afraid of you, God. You are an angry God. In the Holy Scriptures, in the Bible, we have learned over the years that you got angry with mankind and you decided to flood the earth. But you selected one family and you appointed or selected Noah to build an ark, and you helped him to put all the selected animals into the ark. And he went inside with them, and the flooding started. Everybody was killed, but Noah and his family. After the flood, he came out and celebrated. In that celebration, unfortunately, he imbibed some wine and he got drunk. And one of his sons is said to have looked down upon him and abused him. On his waking, he then cursed his son and said to him that his descendants will be the slaves of his brother's descendants. This divided nations and continues to divide nations. Your anger frightens me. How could you allow the floods to kill innocent souls, children, animals? I am afraid. God, I am afraid. You promised never to kill people with a flood, and in the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, you used fire. You burned the cities, but again, you saved one family. Your anger frightens me. I am afraid to even think. I am afraid of you, God. The city of Sodom and Gomorrah was inhabited by people that liked to have a lot of fun and enjoy themselves. And this angered you. And you unleashed a fire on these two cities. You asked Lot and his family to leave the city. But as they departed, his wife looked back in curiosity, and you punished her and turned her into salt. That makes me afraid. I do not understand this kind of anger. God, how do we deal with an angry God like you? I am afraid. I am not an angry God. I am a loving God. I am the Creator. How could I create such a marvelous world and people and also wish to destroy them? The stories that people tell about their own experiences, about their own lives, are the stories that tend to distort the reality. Some of the stories told with an intention to create the fear that you have. I gave every human a brain to think and to ask questions. If you take the stories of other people and you believe in those stories as if they are the gospel truth, then you cannot blame God for your beliefs. I gave you a brain to think. I am not an angry God. God, do you have a chosen nation? The scriptures teach us that you selected Abraham as the father of all nations. Why Abraham? Why this particular nation was chosen to be the children of God? Abraham had his wife Sarah. Sarai was a beautiful woman, the mother of nations, but she couldn't bear children for Abraham, the chosen father of nations. In her desperation, she asked her assistant or helper to sleep with her husband Abraham. Hagar was Sarai's maid or helper. She was of African origin, Egyptian origin. She asked Hagar to sleep with Abraham and to give Abraham a son. And she complied. And out of that relationship, a son was born. His name was Ishmael. And after the birth of Ishmael, the Holy Scriptures tell us that Hagar started to behave differently and disrespected Sarai, who was her supervisor, should we say. Sarai got angry and asked the Lord to remove Hagar. And miraculously, Sarai got pregnant and gave birth to a handsome son called Isaac. Abraham and Sarai were very happy to get the son called Isaac. After having asked Abraham to remove Hagar and Ishmael from the home, Isaac was now the new father of nations. Two brothers, or should I say half-brothers. The one brother is in the desert with his mother, living a difficult life, and the Lord comes to them and promises to look after them in the desert. Two nations are born out of Abraham. Two religions are born out of Abraham. What does this mean to the landscape, to the ecosystem of faith, and to God? the conflict and chaos that has come out of these bifurcation, this division between the half-brothers has led to untold forms of conflict in the Middle East. We have the Jews, we have the Arabs. They believe in two different kinds of God. Yahweh on the side of the Jews and Allah on the side of the Arabs. Was this intentional of God to create such a division and such conflict that has seen the loss of many lives in the Middle East? You are asking very difficult but very important questions. The history of nations and what they do is not the responsibility of the Creator. The Creator created existence and laws that accompany that existence. Those laws apply to everybody, everywhere. If one nation chooses to write their own history in a book and convince other nations that that is the correct history, that is the correct law of God, I do not take responsibility for that. I gave every nation the ability to think. I gave everybody brains to think. I am the Creator. Whatever people have done with the resources I've given them, the brain to think, the ability to write, the ability to tell their stories, it is not my responsibility as the Creator. If one nation writes a story and sells that story to other nations, those nations that believe that story have a responsibility to think and to accept or to not accept. It is not the role of the religions that mankind have created. Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Hindu, all the religions are a creation of humanity. I gave humanity a brain. Some of them have misused the brain to manipulate facts. Some of them have misused the brain to believe untruths and misinformation. It is not the responsibility of their Creator. I am their Creator. My next question, God, is about your Son, Jesus Christ. You brought him to the world to change the world and to unite the world and make everybody a child of God. Was Jesus Christ your child?